They thought silence meant surrender, that you'd given up, that because you weren't posting, reacting, or fighting back, you were finished. But what they missed is that not everyone makes noise when they're rebuilding. Some people don't retaliate. They refine. They don't throw punches. They sharpen blades, quietly, alone, strategically. You weren't gone. You were gathering, not attention, but power. You stepped back, not because you lost, but because you were upgrading everything they thought they damaged. And while they performed their victories out loud, you moved in shadows. You let the world forget you so that when you returned, no one would be ready. They confused distance with defeat, but the truth is, you stopped defending yourself because you realized it was a waste. You didn't need to explain. You didn't need to argue. You didn't need to fix the lies. You only needed time, and time, used properly, becomes leverage. So while they were reposting wins, you were becoming the win. While they were shouting stories, you were becoming the story. You didn't clap back because you were building something permanent. And when that kind of revenge arrives, it doesn't scream, it doesn't warn, it simply walks in, and everything changes. Your silence isn't passive, it's patient, it's composed, it's deadly. And soon the ones who laughed the loudest will have to watch the one who said nothing finish everything. They never imagined you'd be this calm, this quiet, this focused. They expected chaos from you, anger, desperation. They wanted a reaction they could label as unstable. That's how they control the story, provoke the storm, then cry victim. But you didn't give them the storm. You became the sky before it. They can't track you anymore. You don't explain your steps. You don't share your moves. You don't hand out previews of your progress. And that kills them. Because people who rely on control panic when they lose visibility. And now, they can't read you, can't predict you, can't place you. That's your advantage now. Unreadability. Your energy's different, sharper, tighter. Everything you do has purpose. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is broadcasted. They mistake that for stillness, but you're anything but still. You're moving with lethal clarity. No distractions, no detours, no noise. While they celebrate being seen, you're becoming someone they'll never stop watching. While they collect applause, you collect leverage. While they chase validation, you chase legacy. And they're starting to feel it. Not through confrontation, not through conflict, through distance, through your absence in the places you used to over-explain yourself, through the silence that now feels like a mirror, one they can't look into without seeing their own mistakes staring back. This isn't revenge built on rage, it's revenge built on evolution, and the version of you they once disrespected, they won't survive the version that comes next. There's a shift they can't explain. You walk different, not faster, not louder, just heavier. Like every step you take carries weight they'll never understand. That's because it does. Every silent moment you endured, every conversation you had to swallow, every fake smile you gave to keep the peace, it all lives in you now, not as baggage, but as fuel. They wanted you broken, small, reactive. They thought if they ignored you enough, disrespected you enough, embarrassed you enough, you'd collapse. You'd fold into yourself, but you didn't fold. You forged. In heat they created. In silence they thought would crush you. Now you walk in silence, but the silence is loaded with boundaries, with awareness, with sharpened edges that didn't come from revenge, revenge. They came from evolution. You didn't decide to get even. You decided to get right with yourself. And in doing so, you became untouchable because now they can't access you. Not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually. They talk, but it doesn't land. They act, but it doesn't matter because you're past the point of caring, past the point of reaction, past the point of needing anything from anyone who couldn't respect what you gave freely. They didn't take your kindness for weakness. They took it for granted, and now they'll watch the cost of that mistake unfold slowly, quietly, unforgivingly. You don't even think of it as revenge anymore. It's not about them, not really. It's about the version of you they created without realizing it, the one who doesn't need closure, the one who doesn't need to be heard to feel seen, the one who doesn't measure power in words, but in silence. They made you explain yourself one too many times, made you apologize for feeling too much, for caring too deeply, for not being as calculated and numb as them. But now you don't apologize. They built themselves off of loud wins, quick impressions, shallow applause. You disappeared and became substance. They stayed visible, but became forgettable. Now the very silence they mocked is the thing they can't stop hearing in their heads. They second-guess every word they said to you, every moment they laughed at you, every chance they had to value you and didn't, because people always remember how they treated you once you stopped being accessible. You didn't ghost them, you outgrew them, and there's no return route from that kind of growth. So when they speak your name now, it's quieter. When they bring you up in rooms, it's with caution, because they know if you ever decide to respond, it won't be to argue, it'll be to finish what they thought they got away with. They think they got away with it. That time erased what they did, that your silence is some kind of forgiveness. But that's because they don't understand the language of those who don't speak unless it's final. You're not chasing revenge, you're crafting inevitability. Your discipline has outlived their drama. Your growth has buried their noise. You don't post about what's coming. You don't hint, tease, or threaten, because real power never advertises. What's coming isn't a scene, it's a correction. You see everything, you remember everything, not to hold a grudge, but to hold the line between who you used to be, the one who begged to be understood, and who you are now, the one who doesn't need to be. Their guilt is self-inflicted, their fear is earned, because they know deep down you didn't disappear. You upgraded, you evolved into something they don't have access to anymore. And when that access is gone, that's when regret begins. They don't miss you. They miss the power they had when they knew how to trigger you. But that person's gone, and in their place is someone who doesn't blink, doesn't explain, and doesn't give second chances. You were never looking to hurt them. You were waiting for the moment when they'd realize they hurt themselves by letting you go. And that realization hits louder than any scream you could have given. If silence has ever been your sharpest weapon, subscribe now and let them feel the aftermath. You've become what they never expected, untouchable. Not because you rose higher, but because you detached completely. You stopped playing by the rules they depended on. No more chasing, no more proving, no more responding. And without those reactions, they don't know how to measure their own relevance. They throw shade in hopes you'll flinch. They bring up your name in rooms just to see how others react. But you're not reacting. You're rewriting, quietly, strategically, ruthlessly, and each silent move you make pulls them deeper into their own uncertainty. They start watching your every step again, not out of admiration, but fear. The kind of fear that grows in people when they realize the target moved out of range but not out of reach. Because when you were loud, they felt safe. They could label you, mock you, diminish you. But now, there's nothing to grab onto. No anger, no drama, no chaos, just stillness. And stillness terrifies people who built themselves on noise. You never told them what was coming. You just made sure when it arrived it would speak for itself. And that's what's happening now. Your life, your peace, your progress, none of it begs to be seen. But it is, loudly, without a word. And the scariest part, you're just getting started. You don't talk about them anymore, not because you've forgotten, but because they're not relevant to your current reality. They were part of the story, not the ending. And now you're too deep into building something bigger to look back at people who were small even when they were loud. Your silence is no longer about pain, it's about peace. You've found what they were always searching for in attention, identity, but yours didn't come from applause, it came from endurance. They still try to pull you back, subtle comments, fake check-ins, nostalgic references. But nostalgia is a trap, one that only works if you still need something from the past. You don't need closure. You don't need to prove you were right. You don't need to hear sorry, because your life now, it's proof enough. And every silent step you take forward is a reminder to them of everything they lost when they chose noise over substance, when they chose pride over respect, when they chose to push away the one person who would have never betrayed them. But you don't carry that bitterness. You carry the lesson, and that's heavier, because your silence isn't a wall, it's a mirror. And some people can't handle what they see when you stop trying to clean their reflection. They always thought silence meant losing. They thought if you didn't speak, you must be done. But silence isn't surrender. It's precision. It's learning to carry what others collapse under. You weren't too weak to respond. You were too wise to waste it. While they chased attention, you chased alignment. While they flexed for cameras, you forged behind closed doors. You didn't stay silent because you didn't know what to say. You stayed silent because you understood not everything deserves your voice. And that kind of discipline isn't common, it's terrifying. It means you're no longer available to be manipulated. You're no longer reactive. You're not accessible for their ego games. They wanted to watch you break, but all they've done is give you more time to build. And now, without a single warning, they feel the shift. They sense the power in the room when you walk in and say nothing. They feel the threat in the way you don't chase, don't reply, don't care to engage. Because now your presence says everything. You've become untriggerable, unmovable, unstoppable, and that terrifies people who rely on your reactions to feel in control. You don't play defense anymore. You are the consequence. You are the aftershock. Not because you yelled, but because you grew past the point of needing to. The person they tried to break doesn't live here anymore, and the one who replaced them doesn't speak unless it's final. They tried to measure your silence with timelines, gave you a few months to disappear, a year at most before they thought you'd come crawling back. But you didn't. You outlived their expectations without needing to announce a thing. You became something they can't categorize anymore. too quiet to dismiss, too consistent to deny, too far gone to pull back in. And now you don't even show up in their world, but your name still echoes through it. Not because you're chasing relevance, but because everything you built in private is starting to show in public. Quietly, powerfully, irrefutably, they post updates. You make moves, they talk circles. You move lines, they repeat lessons you already internalized years ago. The gap is growing and they know it. And no matter how loud they get, it won't close it. Because you stopped running their race. You built your own terrain, and in your world, there's no need to shout. You became someone who doesn't need confrontation to dominate. You don't argue anymore. You alter the energy in every room. You don't strike back. You rise above until they shrink from your silence. Your revenge isn't loud. It's long. It's steady. It's surgical. And by the time they realize you've already won, you'll be too far ahead for them to even whisper your name with confidence. They thought they could bury you with noise. Instead, they planted a legend. You didn't win for them. You didn't rebuild to prove a point. You didn't endure so one day you could scream, "I told you so." You endured because there was no other option. You evolved because staying broken was never who you were. You chose silence because it gave you something no one else could: control. Now you walk different, not with arrogance, but with gravity. People move around you, watch you, try to decode you, but there's nothing left to decode. Your past explanation, past apology, past reaction. Your success doesn't owe them visibility. Your progress doesn't need their validation. And your peace, that's your revenge. You don't have to remind them what they did. Their own guilt does that. You don't have to prove you made it. Your absence in their story proves it for you. Now they talk about you like a rumor, a presence they can't quite name but can't seem to escape. They don't know where you are, they just know you never stopped. Because legends don't return, they rise. And you didn't shout, you didn't fight, you waited, you built. And when the time was right, you became the thing they feared most, unstoppable and completely silent.